and welcome back. It's Dan MacDonald. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's funny, every time I put out a question, hey, what's a good show to watch? You know, you finish a show, you want to watch something else, people always say, you gotta watch 24. And I will be honest, full disclosure, I have not watched it yet. It's on my list of must-watches. Love the cast. I think it's incredible. But 20 Years of 24, it's a podcast, and the popular long-running show celebrating its 20th anniversary, and there is a reunion happening November 6th, the largest global gathering of 24 fans, and for the first time ever, 24 star and executive producer Kiefer Sutherland is going to be joined by most of the main cast and the creative team of the Emmy-winning drama. They're going to be reuniting on Zoom to mark the 20th anniversary of the series, which is November 6, 2001. It started 20 years ago. So the 24 reunion caps the hashtag was trending, 20 years of 24. It was a campaign that began as kind of a virtual discussion group, and it spawned into a podcast featuring more than 40 guests from the show's 9 seasons. The 24 virtual convention is produced by Go Tell Someone Podcast, Memetic Productions, shout out to Gavin Michael Booth, and the 24 Universe team. Joining us on the phone, host of the 20 Years of 24 podcast, Ryan Richardson. Ryan, good morning. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning. It's a pleasure. Hey, it's Saturday. You've still got time. You could binge it and finish it by Saturday.
That's true. I totally could. That's a challenge. I'm up for it. You know, first off, though, let's rewind a bit. I mean, safe to say you are a super fan. What got you into the show 24?
You know, I got hooked pretty much, I'd say, from day 2, because I tried to watch it in the middle of the first season, and I tried to jump in the middle, and it's not really a show you could do that. You would kind of have to follow from the beginning. But from day 2, I got hooked on the show. It's just so well written. It throws you curves and things you just don't even expect. It's most shows like to wrap up by the end, and 24 is definitely not one of those shows.
I love that. And when did you start your podcast?
I started the beginning of this year. Actually, about 10 years ago, I reached out to one of the directors, producers of the show, and I said, he's a Canadian, John Cassar. And I said, hey, I've got this idea for a convention. And we kind of back and forth and figured out it wasn't quite the right timing for it yet. But 2 years ago, I kind of revisited the idea again and then started a podcast this year, hoping that I talked to like 6 or 8 people from the show. We've talked to 45.
Wow.
We've talked to Kiefer, we've talked to John Cassar, we've talked to Leslie Hope, who's also a Canadian. The cool thing about 24, too, is that the main family, the Bauer family, the 3 of them, are all Canadian, but they were seen as the all-American family, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, like you said, over 45, that's incredible. Superfans, crew, the casting director, Kiefer Sutherland, so many members of the cast. How do you land all of these interviews?
We have a guy named Justin. He came on board as my co-host pretty early on, and he is persistent like I've never seen. Like, he just knows how to... You know, he knew Howard Gordon, who was one of the main people from the show, who actually also did Homeland, among other things. And he had a friendship with Howard, and he asked Howard if he would be on the show. And that had led to, once we had Howard, it kind of led to the snowball of all these people that wanted to be a part of our podcast. So it's been a lot of fun.
It's really impressive, to the lineup and the roster you have. So tell us about this reunion happening November 6th for the 20th anniversary. How did you pull all of this together?
Well, it's been crazy. I haven't slept very much like Jack Bauer on the show. But the same thing. Like, we started getting people together, and we had said at the end of every podcast after the interview, we said, hey, we want to do this event on the 6th of November because it's the 20th anniversary, and we think these things should be noted. And like 3 weeks ago, John Cassar, again, Canadian director, got really behind it, and then he went after cast and started saying, hey, aren't you going to join us? You got to join us. So we got like Louis Lombardi. We've got Louis Lombardi was in The Sopranos, Laura Harris, another Canadian actress from Dead Like Me, Chris Diamantopoulos from Silicon Valley, and he was in Three Stooges, Sarah Clark, who was in the Twilight films. Again, a lot of these actors are Canadian. I think a third of our guests are also Canadian, and all of them are actively working in the industry.
Wow.
It really reminds me of like when you watch episodes of Seinfeld and then you recognize everybody who wasn't a star then.
Right.
That's what 24 has done. You recognize all these people now because they just have stayed busy over the years. And so they're all going to join for the first time virtually on Zoom.
That is incredible. And Kiefer Sutherland will be headlining this event.
He is, yes. He's our keynote right about the middle of the day. And he has cleared the time. He's busy getting ready to tour an album and he's got a couple shows on the go, but he's going to clear an hour to spend time with us and just talk about 24.
That is so cool. And I mean, I saw the story, saying he's really pumped to talk and interact with fans. And I can't imagine your reaction when you confirmed this lineup and it kind of really got solidified. That had to be an incredible feeling of accomplishment and achievement.
It's crazy because, like I said, 11 years ago I had this idea, and I was like, maybe we'll get 5 people. And the original plan was to do an actual convention. I talked to some venues in town. I was going to do it here in Windsor, and then we couldn't do it we had to shift it over to virtual. But the benefit of that is that everybody can do it from home. They're not flying in. They're not all that kind of stuff. They're going to be from the comfort of their own home, or some of them will actually be on set. So yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, it really truly is. Why do you think people love this show so much? Because fans, I had no idea until I kind of started going down and listening to the podcast and just kind of following up on fans are hardcore for 24. I had no idea. What is it people love about the show so much?
Well, the 24 Universe Facebook group that we're on, when I started the podcast about 8 months ago, not even 8 months ago, they had 10,000 people in the group, and it's grown to 15,000. And normally a 20-year-old show isn't picking up people, usually they've kind of past their prime. But with Disney Plus picking up 24 and adding it to their roster, you think a year ago now, more people are finding out about this show. And it really is different than anything else on TV. It doesn't wrap up things nicely. A lot of our guests talk about the pulse of the show. Right. There's cliffhangers pretty much at the end of every episode. And it's just so well written. The music is fantastic. We got the composer, Sean Callery, who also did Homeland, among other things. It's crazy.
It is. And for you, working out so well for you, because so many people have a podcast right now, and many people want to be kind of the authority on whatever topic they're doing the podcast on. But for you to be such a big part of orchestrating this, it's astounding. Is it networking? Is it determination, passion? Like, did you have I know you mentioned you had your co-host who was a big help, but I guess it really is just knowing how to speak to the right people. This is a really huge event you got going on.
Yeah, it's part insanity and part just kind of not. I try not to be a pest about it.
Yep.
I don't want anybody on our podcast that doesn't want to be there.
Right.
One of the best compliments we had from Rachel Ellsworth, who was on several seasons of the show. She doesn't like to do interviews. She doesn't like to do podcasts, and she said she listened to about 4 or 5 of our episodes, and it made her comfortable enough to say, okay, these guys are going to, be respectful, and they're going to, conduct a great interview. So we had a great time talking to her.
I love that.
Even to producers that come on and they say, oh, we listened to a couple episodes before just to kind of get a feel of,
right.
I'm like, I hope it was good.
Yeah. Clearly, it's got to be. I get it. They want to make sure it isn't some kind of, someone who doesn't know what they're talking about, someone who's coming from a genuine place. And I've listened to your podcast, and like I said, I'm not even familiar with the show, but it's phenomenal. It's really, really well done. It's so impressive. So the event coming up on Saturday, how can people attend?
The best way is for them to go to 24convention.com.
Okay.
And that, I'm looking at the page right now. It's got a list of all the guests that are showing up. The price is $24 US. So we made that appropriately.
24.
and we're donating to Operation Smile. They're our charitable partner on this event. So they do cleft palate surgery around the world.
Phenomenal organization.
Yeah. And we had Deadline. Deadline broke the story of Kiefer joining us, and that has boosted our numbers up big time.
Oh,
So if you want to get a ticket, you probably should get it soon because
yes,
people are buying tickets left and right.
24convention.com, and I read the story. It's huge, and I'm so happy that seeing this event happen and seeing a fellow Windsorite who's behind the whole thing. That's so great. Ryan, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.